Welcome to this month's Member to Member Connection. I'm ASHRAE President Mick Schwedler, and today we're going to talk about what would you have done differently if you had known more when you first began. We have three panelists today. First is Vanessa Freidberg. She's a strategic business advisor with Siemens. Sheila Hayter, this might take a little while. She's with the U.S. Department of Energy, National Renewable Energy Laboratory. She's a laboratory program manager with the Federal Energy Management Program. Sheila, thanks. And Jake Kopocis, he does sales at Mechanical Sales Incorporated. So thanks everybody for joining. Vanessa, we're going to go to you with the first question. And that is, what's the first thing you did as an ASHRAE volunteer? And what did you learn from that experience?
Well, I first got involved with ASHRAE because my manager said I should go get involved in something. And I actually went to several different industry organizations. And when I went to ASHRAE, I was the most impressed with how organized they were and how much they got done and how much fun it seemed like they were having. So I went to a meeting, and I think it was the second meeting. Cameron Lubunsky came to me and said, hey, we really need a student activities person, and we really don't have a chapter or a branch at the University of Texas. Do you want to do something like that? And I said, okay. And that was kind of the beginning of the end of everything. So yeah, it was quite fun working with the students. We started student branch, got the advisors, and yeah, it was just my first introduction to ASHRAE. Because just in my schooling, I didn't do a lot of HVAC specific work. So yeah, it was really interesting.
And so did you learn things outside of the HVAC technical side when you did that?
Absolutely. I mean, the people you get to meet, how do you kind of drive organizations and help build something from the ground up? So I think there's absolutely a lot of skills growth there, and also lifelong friends. I mean, there've been people that I met that were students at the University of Texas that now I still run into at the conferences. I get to see them speak, read their papers. It's really been a lot of fun to just have those relationships over time.
Fantastic. Sheila, can you take us back to your first volunteering with an ASHRAE? You've done a lot.
Yeah, I have done a lot, but I started kind of in the same area where Vanessa started. I joined ASHRAE as a student member and began volunteering with my student branch. And so my first ASHRAE job was to be I think we called it the program chair of my student branch back then. So I was responsible for bringing in speakers and helping to think about tours and things like that our ASHRAE student branch might be interested in participating in. And so it was really great. But what I learned from that right away is how valuable a network is, a professional network is, and how easy it is to develop that network through ASHRAE. And so I think those were the two biggest takeaways that I took from that experience, because as I was graduating from college, I was able at a very, early in my career, tap into that network to find people that would help me find places to interview when I was looking for jobs. And I ended up interviewing all over the country and had several really interesting opportunities. And then I had to decide, what do I want to do? So it was a really good way to develop my network early. And then I was able to tap into that network to help me get started in my career.
And actually get a job. That is awesome. Jake, where did you start?
So I started as a student, just like Sheila and Vanessa. But I was really fortunate when I was even a little tiny child. There are several people in my family who were very active in ASHRAE. So I actually was exposed to ASHRAE as a very young child, especially one of my family members who's a fellow, or was a fellow who passed away a few years ago. So I kind of grew up my whole life understanding how great ASHRAE is, and always kind of wanted to be a part of it. And pretty much everybody in my family is either a lawyer or an engineer. And so I went the engineer route and went the ASHRAE route. So it's been great.
Fantastic. So what were your takeaways from your first involvement as a student?
My first involvement was the networking. Plus, it's just a great community to be a part of. Everybody just gets along really well and is extremely friendly. And then kind of what I figured out later on in life was, if I run into a unique situation on a project or with my job, it's a quick phone call and I can usually get an answer to it, which is great. And then also there's, I would say there's not too many couches around the world that I can't, or not too many cities around the world that I can't find a place with a couch to sleep on. So it's, there's other benefits as well as to my professional career.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jake. And we're going to come back to you with this next one. So I think I got to know you a little bit when you were involved in Young Engineers in ASHRAE, and Vanessa, the same for you, as well as certification. So Jake, how did that evolve from students to getting involved in the society level committees?
Yeah. So I went to my first chapter meeting after graduation, and I just went up to the board and to the president specifically and said, where do you need help? And they asked me to be the EA chair. EA was just starting at that time. And so they asked if I could help out as a co-chair on that. And then I became chair. And then I won a couple awards at the chapter level. I also became MP chair at that time. And then asked to be part of the region. And then by being a regional vice chair, or YRC at the time, I was then asked after that term was up to be on the executive committee of YA, and just kept going until I ran out of stuff to do with YA, and now I'm on honors and awards. So and doing other things. So it's been great.
Fantastic. And for those who don't have the code book, MP is membership promotion.
That's right. Yeah.
We have a lot of acronyms. But Vanessa, how about you after student activity stuff?
Yeah, so similar with the YEA being created around the time I had gotten involved. And so my chapter, after I spent about 2 years in student activities, I started doing YEA chair, started that kind of group, and had the experience from student activities that I could leverage and understand how to put something together and how to motivate people, and to really kind of have that group atmosphere and bringing people together for a greater purpose. And you've got the networking side, but you also have the educational side. So yeah, I think in YEA, we really enjoyed doing a lot of how do we get the newer engineers to feel comfortable at an ASHRAE either meeting or event, maybe talking about not simple things, but maybe just things that they haven't had exposure to yet, and really getting to have guest speakers. And I thought that was a really special opportunity to kind of learn and grow with people that were in the same career stage. So I really appreciated the creation of YEA, and that got me hooked. There was actually this YEA, which is Young Engineers of ASHRAE, Leadership Weekend. And so this YLW, because we have more acronyms, it really changed my life. I went and did a leadership weekend. I think it was number 2, possibly of San Diego. Caleb was there, Haynes. And so we did this leadership weekend. And one of the things that kind of came out of that was actually a career change for me. And that's when I made some differences in my career path, and still in the building environment. Still wanted to be in buildings with energy as a focus, but knew that I maybe wanted to do something more with people. And I really enjoyed that career step. And if I didn't have that kind of support from Ralph Keeson and that whole program, that then I really motivated me to not only change who I am and what I do, but also made ultimately the decision that I was going to get more involved with ASHRAE and start volunteering even more. And that's kind of when I got to what Jake's point of at the region level, started saying, well, what else, if I've done a great job and our chapter's been really successful with YEA, how do I now help other chapters in our region to do the same thing? So I became the region chair, and that opened my whole eyes to society and all of the things that they do. So it's a tremendous world out there. Yeah.
It really is. And Sheila, you started as a student and are now a presidential member. So if people don't know, that means she has been an ASHRAE president of the entire society. But Sheila, rather have you talk about your path, because it might take us a while. I'm going to ask you instead, sometimes the ASHRAE system is hard to understand or navigate. How did you learn about it?
How did I learn about it? That is a really good question, because yes, we've been talking already about all the acronyms that ASHRAE has, and there's a lot of parts of the organization that somebody can become involved with. So how do you know what's available? What types of volunteer opportunities are there for you to pursue? How do you even sign up once you learn about something? How do you get engaged with that? And as far as learning how to navigate it, I really depended on that ASHRAE network that have been developing since I was a student, and just asking people that have been involved for a long time or even a short time to say, how do I do this? What's next? I've heard about this, or I'm interested in being involved in this type of conversation or this type of leadership. How can I do that? And the wonderful thing about ASHRAE is our members are really interested in helping each other and helping that next generation get that start, to open doors for opportunities that people can choose to follow if they want to. So our members are really wanting to help others be successful in their ASHRAE careers. And once I learned that it was okay to ask questions and that I shouldn't be embarrassed by not knowing the answers or feeling like I'm just, some entry level person that doesn't have the background and the experience. So I shouldn't be, after I got over my own problem of my image of being too young or too new or too whatever, and just started asking questions, and the doors just opened and all kinds of really cool opportunities came my way. And then it was a problem of deciding, well, which one am I going to do, or which ones, and how many should I take on? How do I integrate these opportunities into my other professional goals that I have in my workplace, so I can justify the time that I'm spending with ASHRAE, and so that everything is integrated and melding and merged together, so that I'm really am benefiting not only myself and my network, but I'm also gaining the skills and the knowledge I need to contribute to my workplace as well. So
Sure.
yeah, once you ask
Okay.
questions and say, I'm ready, the door's open, and then the world is
Look
yours to
out.
decide what you want to do.
Then look out, right? Vanessa, I saw you smile when Sheila was talking about asking questions. Can you share what you were thinking there?
I had a mentor tell me once the amount of success you will find in your life is directly correlated to the quality of the questions you ask. And I think that that's just so important, is taking that initiative and asking those questions. And there's, I mean, you say there's no such thing as a stupid question, but there's not. And if you don't ask the questions, you can't really sit around expecting people to come to you, right? I mean, that initiative, I think, is really key. So I thought that just reminded me of one of the things that's kind of helped me to I guess be different in my career.
Okay, Jake, I'm not going to have you answer that one, but we're going to move to a different one. What mistakes did you make along the way? Or instead, as Thomas Edison would have said, what did you learn not to do again?
Well, I learned this, and I also have seen several other people do this, is burnout, So if you try to take on, like Sheila made a comment about it, if you try to take on too much, there's so many great things, especially when you start peeling the layers of the onion back of ASHRAE. I never really worried about too much about the organization. I just had fun. So there's still things that I don't know, and I'm okay with that. And I also ask the questions, but as you peel back those layers, it's really easy to get caught up in really exciting, cutting edge technology, as well as on the social side. We're looking at expanding our diversity in the industry, and that's a big campaign that we're starting here in our chapter, as well as I know society is overall. So it's just really hard to say, okay, I'm gonna focus on these one or two really cool things and do a great job, versus trying to grab all 6 or 7 that you're interested in and then kind of fumble things up. So I wish, and I'm trying to focus on that right now, is really focus on those 1 or 2 things I'm gonna do a really good job at, because there's for every thing that I'm gonna drop the ball on, there's probably 10 people behind me that want to do a really good job at it. So kind of that divide and conquer, and really take on as much as you can handle.
And I actually remember you and I had some conversations, and you were starting to build a family.
Yeah.
And that's important to you. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you balance that with your ASHRAE involvement?
Yeah. So when I was involved with Yay, Vanessa and I, and as well as several other people, we used to travel upwards of 20, 30, sometimes 40 days a year for ASHRAE while we're trying to build our careers, and trying to, just get families started, buy houses, renovation projects, and also as well as not make our bosses mad when they were gone all the time. So and trying to keep them happy. but it's infectious. You know, you want to be around your friends and you want to give back to ASHRAE. It's just so much fun. And I think Vanessa's can attest to this as well. You kind of have to build in that time when you start scaling back when you do have a family. So that's why it's been great for me, because I've gone to honors and awards, and it's still a lot of time, but I don't have all the travel and to be away, so I can spend time with my kids, but also still give back to society. And like on honors and awards, I get to see all the incredible things other people in society do. You know, not to, you know, but well, like Sheila, I mean, if I think I've read through her bio for an award, and I'm like, she's accomplished more in 10 years than I hope to do in my whole career. So you get to see some really, really cool people and what they've done, and you're not traveling away from your family, and you can sit there and read through bios and respond in your free time, even with kids are running around you. So there's always something to do. There's always something to do, and it's always been fun and rewarding for me.
Fantastic. Vanessa, you want to comment on the balance part, and or
Yeah,
maybe
well,
something else about a mistake or something you do differently?
It's very similar with Jake, so I won't repeat dittos to that. But something I want to highlight on what he said about the travel is that was also part of the excitement about it, that you get to learn about different cultures through ASHRAE. And so maybe I would have, I mean, I think it just takes time to kind of pick what you're going to go spend your focus on. But yeah, having that international exposure, I think I would have done it maybe sooner, and maybe work to more go to, I don't know, the region at large or region 13's. Well, 13 wasn't invented back then, but or 14. So I actually would enjoy going and doing some of their, like at the society meetings, you can go into any of their meetings. And so they actually have region meetings while they're all together for society calls. So I think I would have gone to some of those sooner and gotten to just see what kind of hurdles are they running up against that are very different than the hurdles that we might run up against here in the US. So I think that was really good exposure.
Fantastic. Sheila, any mistakes that you made along the way? Hard to imagine, but you want to share?
Oh, I make mistakes every day, but I learn from them every day. It's like every day there's a learning opportunity for me anyway. So yeah, I would agree with what both Jake and Vanessa have said. I'm going to add to that because I'm thinking, what can I add? Because that's how I would have answered the question if you'd asked me at first. But another thing that I, looking back, wish I had done sooner is put myself forward, advocate for myself. As Vanessa said earlier, you need to ask the questions because you can't wait for somebody to come to you. There are enough things going on that the people that are showing interest to be engaged with them are the ones that are going to be invited to be engaged. And so the idea of when you go to an ASHRAE meeting, whether it's a chapter meeting for the first time or a technical committee meeting at a ASHRAE conference or any of the ASHRAE meetings, be brave, take a deep breath, walk up to somebody, introduce yourself, ask them some questions about why are they there, what are they interested in, and pretty soon that conversation turns into them asking you, what is it that you do? Why are you interested? What kinds of things would you like to do in ASHRAE? And so it's being brave and taking that first step to open yourself up and get to know the other people, and don't sit in the back of the room. Don't go sit at the table. Introduce yourself to the person who's sitting next to you, because they might be an introvert and are waiting for you to start the conversation. So be brave, take that first step, get the conversation going. And if I had learned that earlier, it would have helped in a lot of ways, both in helping me get ingrained in ASHRAE in the way I wanted to earlier, but also help me get to expand my network to the point where I know the people who I need in order to help me do the jobs that I'm trying to do, whether it's in ASHRAE or in my professional life outside of ASHRAE.
Sure. So it sounds, Sheila, you just segued into what we said this was all about, what you would have done differently. And I think what I heard is you would have taken more initiative,
Mm-hmm.
or would you like, are
Yeah,
there
I would
other
say
things that you, go ahead.
initiative, but it's more like advocating for myself. So when I feel like I'm the right person to help out with something, to speak up and to say so, because it's normal human behavior that people invite others that are familiar to them to help them do things that they need to have done. And if I'm the new person in the room and they don't know me, it's natural that they're going to invite somebody else first. But if I can advocate for myself and say, this is something I'm interested in, and on top of that, I have the background or the experience and the knowledge or whatever to support my interests, then they'll go, oh, a new person. We can expand our group and we can include somebody, and we trust that this person will be able to help us accomplish whatever needs to be done. So it's that learning to advocate for yourself is something that ASHRAE has taught me how to do. And looking back, it was a process, and I've learned it through my ASHRAE engagements. It would have been nice if I learned it a little bit quicker. I'm kind of a slow learner on some things, so.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that. And ASHRAE, I'd say, kind of has a dual personality, because we hear sometimes the position seeks the person. And if you advocate, are you the person seeking the position?
Yeah, that's
And
a really
so
good point.
it's sometimes, it's just sometimes hard. So advocating without demanding, perhaps, would be.
Yes,
Not expecting.
exactly.
So Vanessa, what would you have done differently looking back?
Yeah, I think that, because I just, as they were talking, each of what they said had really good points. I think so much of who we are is our past experiences. So I don't know that I would change anything, even though, for example, I did the RVC position for YEA. So RVC is Regional Vice Chair position for YEA, Young Engineers in ASHRAE. So I did that for Region 8, and I also was in our chapter board of governors, and so I was going through all of the chairs, and I did those both at the same time. And it's just a lot of work, and so I think kind of on Jake's, the focusing is kind of important. Being able to try to maybe pick one thing at a time and put a lot of focus into it. And I know I had maybe more free time at the moment. So it kind of ended up working out. And I don't think I would go back and change anything. I loved all of my experiences, but there were some nights and weekends and after hours that, my husband's taking care of the house stuff. And I just have to say thank you. And I promise I won't overcommit myself again, after this 3-year stint. So anyways, yeah, that's what I would do differently.
And how about you, Jake? What looking back, what would you do differently?
So Sheila made me think of something that I was very fortunate enough to learn during my time on the ASHRAE committee. I quite often am the loudest person in the room. I kind of tend to carry the biggest microphone sometimes, self-appointed. We talked about the different personalities in ASHRAE. And one thing that I was very fortunate to learn through the leadership weekends and personality training and leadership training from our facilitators in that realm, who are fantastic, that sometimes you have to take the most quiet person in the room and not push them to the point where they're uncomfortable, but try to find ways to get their ideas out of them, because we have some of the most brilliant people in the world in our industry, and they have great ideas. They just don't always vocalize them because somebody else has a big microphone and they're yelling like me. So getting that information out of them, but then also encouraging them in a comfortable way to let them take the reins and have their own projects that they're working on and their own contributions. Some of the best ideas we ever had and the YEA committee and other committees I've worked on have come from people who aren't the loud ones. They're the ones that are the quiet ones. So that's a big thing that I learned, and I carry with me throughout my personal life and my professional life, and it's been a very valuable lesson that I've learned.
Yeah. Thanks so much. We do get to work with a lot of brilliant and passionate people, and that it's such a privilege and such an honor. This has been fabulous. Before we close, though, I'd like to ask each of you, do you have a final thought, a quick thing you'd like to share with our audience? Sheila?
Yeah, I would say just jump in and have fun. It's the things that I have learned from ASHRAE have helped me so much in both my ASHRAE path as well as my professional path outside of ASHRAE, as well as my personal life. The skills like setting expectations and thinking strategically and managing a situation, whether it's people's or schedules or whatever. And then you have the opportunity, like what Vanessa was saying earlier, of just having exposure to such a wide variety of cultures and just people and the way they think and the way and the problems they're facing and how do they address those challenges and the steps they take in order to solve those things is so enriching and helps in so many ways that I think everybody should be involved with ASHRAE because it's you gain so much more than what you put in, and the more you gain, the more you're motivated to put in, and the more that we're giving back to our organization and helping our whole industry moving forward, as well as personally gaining skills and friends and experiences that you just can't get in any other way.
Great, thanks for sharing. Jake, how about you go next?
For me, ASHRAE, I would be in a lot different place without ASHRAE, and I get asked often, especially I just changed jobs, and I got asked, well, what's your involvement going to be with ASHRAE, and what kind of time commitment is it? And the problem is some of it's intangible, right? Some of it's tangible in the sense of networking, and especially if you're a vendor or a contractor or a salesperson or something like that. Sometimes it's difficult to justify. But one thing I can say, whether or not I had the time for my company, or if I had to take personal time, it's been incredibly valuable. I would do it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. ASHRAE has provided value in my life on from everything from a personal side to a financial side to an emotional side. It has made every single part of me and who I am a better person for having been a part of the organization. And the people are just amazing. So.
Wow. Vanessa, you get the last word before we close.
That's a lot of pressure. I think it's a lot of things. And I think you make a good point, Jake, on just the going out of your way to building those connections and the intangibles. I was thinking about how do you put that into words, and it's a challenge. I had people when I first got involved with ASHRAE say, it's like a family, right? You build this, not just a network, but you build this community. I think community maybe is even a better word. And I don't think you know it until you live it. I don't think so. It's hard we can say the words now, but even, people watching this as you're listening, you're going to be thinking like, yeah, sure. Okay. Networking. I've heard that before, but it is so much different. There's so much, it's a deeper connection because you don't just see someone one time and then never again. You see that person over and over for years, and you learn about their family, you understand them inside and out. And so it's just, I think that deep connection, that community is really important and is an intangible that's hard to quantify. And that was just adding to Jake's, but my main thought was embrace the awkward. My first meeting that I went to, I walked in, I didn't know anybody, and I was terrified. I was terrified. And I went in and I sat down and I learned about MERS ratings on filters. And I thought it was fascinating and I loved it. And I was still terrified. So as soon as it was done, I got up and I ran out. So it's okay that like maybe you're not the ask the questions the first time person. I wasn't, and I consider myself pretty outgoing, but embrace the awkward. There's going to be, it's different to be in a new situation or a new location and not know the answer. You don't know which direction the elevator is when you go to the conference, or, there's just things that you're just not going to know. And that's okay, and embrace that and kind of lean into it. And if it feels awkward, then great, it's working. And then you'll get more comfortable as each time you go and have more exposure. So I think just keep getting involved and meet people.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Sheila, Vanessa, and Jake, this has been absolutely fabulous. Our audience, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in next month's Member to Member Connection.